for another season of Chalk Talk. Nick Camino, Ben Axelrod here with you. Ben, already season number 3 for us. That's hard to believe. Episode 1. We've already had a little bit of football. But away we go here with another year of talking about college football, NFL football. We do a lot of it through the lens that is sports betting, all of it for entertainment purposes only, at least still here in Ohio. But it's great to be back for another season, Ben. And I know we're excited because not only do we get to do this show, this means football's back.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's, we had college football week 0, now college football week 1, heading in here to college football week 2. But this really is, NFL week 1 feels like where it really ramps up. That's especially up here in Northeast Ohio, a big deal. So really excited to get going here on season 3.
All right, so it is week 2 of the college football season, the opening week of the NFL. And Ben will carry our flag this week, a little sneak preview here of our picks. He is going to take that Thursday night game. That became a tradition. And we never even talked about that. We always just had one. A couple of things. I think a lot of people wondering, if you're doing a show like this, why doing a show like this? And I thought this was interesting because this week, the American Gaming Association came out and they had some stats. They estimate that a record number, 45.2 million Americans, that's 18% of the population, will wager in some way, shape, or form on the NFL this season. With the legalization of sports betting, that's an estimated 36% increase from a year ago. So, Ben, we're seeing it throughout the country. I know here in Ohio, it seems like we're a little late to the party, but we're seeing this throughout the country. Once the federal ban was lifted, state by state by state, we're starting to see this legalized. I was in Indiana this past weekend for a wedding. Everybody was on their phones, on their mobile apps. I mean, it's crazy. This is the world we're living in now.
Yeah, I think you said Ohio's a little late to the party. We're a lot late to the party at this point. If you go into just about any bordering state except for Kentucky, you go into West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Indiana, sports betting is legal, and they have mobile apps and DraftKings and things of that nature. You can play DraftKings here, but you can't bet on a straight-up sports line. It really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But even in states like Ohio, where it's not legal, if you're watching these games, gambling's going to come up. I mean, the NFL, I think, now has an official gambling partnership. Right. I mean, these lines are not just something you sneak in the fourth quarter. This is something that's being talked about throughout the week here. So I think it's really hard to follow sports, whether you're in a state where it's legal or not, without doing it through the prism of sports gambling, because it's become so influential here in terms of how we process these games.
Yeah, maybe Brent Musburger and Al Michaels were a little ahead of their time with all of this, talking about it on broadcast, but now I feel like we've taken it out of the shadows. Heck, we devote an entire show to it, and we'll do it each week. All right, Ben, we already have college football already, a week in already. Any impressions as to what you saw? Some early season big time matchups.
One thing I think that hasn't been talked about a lot is, we talk about college football, we talk about this separation at the top. Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson. Those 3 schools alone are breaking in new quarterbacks. We saw Ohio State's quarterback C.J. Stroud struggle in the first half against Minnesota. Obviously, Alabama decimated Miami. And we saw Clemson lose to Georgia. If there was going to be a year for parity, and at this point it just looks like Alabama and everybody else, but this might be the year for parity. Notre Dame, another school breaking in a new quarterback with Ian Book off to the NFL. So I think that's going to be an interesting storyline to follow here through the rest of the college football season.
NFL now, do you think it's the same thing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Or is it them and everyone else? Can they repeat? Or do you think, no, there's more teams that could really compete with these guys?
This is as top to bottom as talented as I've seen the NFL, just in terms of teams who feel good about their quarterback situation, teams who have talent on their roster. I think you can point to 1 or 2 teams as truly rebuilding, and everybody else, it seems like, is going for it. So, we'll talk about Tampa, we'll talk about Kansas City throughout the show. I think those are kind of definitively the 1 and 2 in the league. But, man, this is a top to bottom, talented league, and as deep of a league as I can remember.
How about these guys?
Yeah.
Right, we're going to throw them in the conversation. We'll talk about the Browns also. All right, so each week we're going to give our picks. Now, in previous years, the format was we picked 3 college games, 3 NFL games, and a lot of times we were just picking each side. Mm-hmm. Ben came up with a great idea, and I agree with him on it, surprisingly. And what we're going to do is we're going to give out 3 picks. It could be a side, either a team with the spread, or a total, over or under. So we're going to give out 3 picks each week. I'll give 3, you'll give 3. The goal is to beat up on each other. We're going against each other. Also, though, I think there's a secondary goal for us. We want to try and finish above 52.4% above the number. That means that would be a winning year for us, because when you're betting a game, you're going against minus 110 odds. So they call it the VIG. So we want to be above 52.4% when we bet these. We'll keep our percentages, our picks. We'll keep all the records, WKYC.com. So we'll get started. We're going to pick 3 each. Again, a side, a total, it can be anything. And away we go. Am I starting off here first?
Yeah, I think you got the first pick here.
All right, first pick. We're going to go into college football, Ben's favorite. And we're going to take a team that is going against the Ohio State Buckeyes, as you can see on our nice graphic here. Going to take the Oregon Ducks, getting 14.5 against the Ohio State Buckeyes. Both teams come into this matchup at 1-0 on the season. Oregon was a home winner against Fresno State, a little bit closer than they probably would have liked. And Ohio State, a little bit closer for a while, eventually pull away for the cover. They were giving 13.5 to Minnesota.
I think it was a push in most places. I think it wound up Ohio State minus 14.
Oh, well then I'm already wrong on that. I thought it was 13.5. I thought they covered by a half point. So I guess depending when you took it, though.
Exactly.
You could have gotten it. Maybe before kick, it was at 14. So Oregon did not cover their week 1 spread, but they are 1-0 coming into this. I'm going to take Oregon on the road. I think some people might be raising their eyebrows at this. How can you go against Ohio State in their home opener? I do not believe that Oregon will win this football game. We always have to make that clear. We're taking these against the spread, again, for entertainment purposes only. But I do think Oregon will keep it close. If they lose by 2 touchdowns, if they lose by 14 points, I will have won this pick. So I'm taking Oregon. I think they're the best team in the Pac-12. A lot of people were thinking that was Washington. They lost this past weekend to Montana, an awful loss. So I think that Oregon is the best team in the Pac-12. That might not be saying much because the Pac-12 has struggled, but they've got 9 returning starters on their offense, 7 returning starters on defense. They are 0-9 all time against Ohio State. 0-9. So again, I think they're going to be 0-10 all time, but I do think they keep it close. They've got a senior quarterback in Anthony Brown, and I think they have the 2 best running backs in the Pac-12, and they are on the same team. That's their 1-2 combo at running back in C.J. Verdell and Travis Dye. So 28-18 on the road the last 10 years, 7-1 as an away underdog over the last 10 years. I think that Mario Cristobal's done a nice job with this program. I think they're going to give Ohio State their best shot. I think this is Ohio State's biggest non-conference game. And I like the Ducks to cover the 14.5. Again, don't think they'll win. I think they cover.
Yeah, I mentioned C.J. Stroud, Ohio State's redshirt freshman quarterback, and I think one thing we saw in that opener against Minnesota is how hard it is to just drop off from Justin Fields.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we took it for granted just how good Ohio State's been at quarterback, and you expect Stroud to just be the next man up, and I think ultimately he could be. But again, this is a kid who's 19 years old, playing in his second college football game against a Pac-12 opponent, a premier Power 5 conference opponent. So, but I think Ohio State's offense is there. Like, I think you just look at the talent around C.J. Stroud at receiver, at running back, at tight end. I think Ohio State's fine on offense. It's that defense that I think is shaky, and we've seen some injuries already to the Buckeyes secondary. We've seen them have issues tackling against Minnesota, and that wasn't going up against running backs as talented as Oregon's. I think it's interesting. You say Ohio State, Oregon, you would expect this to be a 8 p.m. primetime game. It's a noon game in
that
daylight.
9 a.m. in Eugene?
Yeah, so maybe that comes into effect a little bit, but yeah, I mean, 14.5 points for an Ohio State.
It just seems like a lot.
It's a lot. I think my concern here would be, I just think Ohio State is so much more talented. You could easily see Ohio State running away with this game because Ohio State runs away with most of their games. But yeah, I mean, if you were to catch the Buckeyes at a time here to cover, it's this early in the season here, so I don't hate the pick.
I could totally see a 14-point game. Ryan Day punches it in for the cover. That would be upsetting for me in this situation. But go Buckeyes. I just need Oregon to keep it close for the sake of our picks. All right, so that's my first pick. So we'll go to Ben's first pick again. We'll each pick 3. First pick for you, I think we're going into the NFL right away, right?
Yeah, we're going to go a couple of days earlier from this Ohio State-Oregon game, and we are going to go with the Thursday night opener. It is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers -8 against.
This is a tradition for us.
Yes,
now. We always pick the Thursday.
I love the Thursday night game, usually most weeks, but especially the season opener. I just think you got to get in early on that action, whether it's DraftKings, whether it's picking a side, whether it's a team total, whatever. But I'm going to take the Buccaneers here. This is a pretty big line for an NFL game. I've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers -8 against the Dallas Cowboys. This pick is just more about liking Tampa Bay. I think you look at, one, the Bucs are the first Super Bowl winner to return every starter from their Super Bowl winning lineup since 1979, since the way before the salary cap started. That's one thing. I think you just look at Tom Brady coming into his second year here in Tampa Bay, working with those receivers again after a shortened offseason last year with all the COVID stuff. Now he's worked with Mike Evans for a year, worked with Chris Godwin, worked with Antonio Brown. I just think this Bucs team is not only are they as good as last year, I think they've gotten better when you look at the additions they've made throughout the offseason. And then Dallas, I have questions about Dak Prescott's injury. I have questions about that shoulder. I have questions about that defense after last year. So I think, Tampa Bay, I think they're going to be a team that's hitting on all cylinders early, and I expect that to show up in a big way here with a double-digit win here on the Thursday night opener.
Yeah, way too many question marks, I think, for the Cowboys, and they also have some COVID issues going on where they're going to be without
Zach Martin, top offensive lineman.
Two of their offensive linemen are going to be out for this game, and they've just, I don't know, they have not. They just haven't done it for me ever since the hiring of McCarthy. I thought that would be a little bit more seamless. So I'm with you on this. The points scare me a little bit because it's so high in an NFL game, but this could be the Tampa Bay kind of celebration post-Super Bowl and enjoying all this.
If this game was on a Sunday, I probably wouldn't be picking it, but it is the Thursday opener, so I have to take it.
Yes.
And if I have to take one side, I'm going to take the Bucs here. And one other thing about Dak Prescott, I know his shoulder injury has gotten a lot of buzz. That ankle injury he had last year, that was I don't know why we're assuming that he's just going to bounce back from that.
And scrambling's a big part of his game.
Yeah, we've seen that injury in the NBA take guys like Gordon Hayward, 2 or 3 years to come back from. I'm not so sold that we're going to get the same old version of Dak Prescott here.
All right, so we'll go to my second pick as Ben takes the Buccaneers on opening night -8. My second pick, we'll go into the NFL here. I'm going to take the Falcons at home -3.5. Do I do this every year? I feel like I take the Falcons week 1 every year, and then it's such a bad decision that we stay away from them the rest of the year. But here's my thought on this. I think the Eagles have some distractions going on right now with their quarterback room. They've got about 4 quarterbacks in that quarterback room. They bring over Minshew, and we know Jalen Hurts is the starter, but it's almost like there's some – there seems to be a lot of uncertainty at that position. I've always liked their defense. I think they do a lot well defensively, but they also have a new coach. I know the Falcons have a new coach too, but I just think that at home, week 1, Falcons will be fired up. They have kind of been a disappointment ever since they blew that Super Bowl. They've really been a disappointment. They got a coach fired. I thought this was an interesting set because you like draft stuff. They have 9 players on their offense who were once a first-round pick. Last year they had 10, but Gurley's gone. They have 9 players who were once a first-round pick. That includes some of the offensive linemen. Matt Ryan back, though, and again, they've disappointed me a little bit since that Super Bowl. But I just think week 1, we saw them a little bit in the preseason against the Browns. Didn't see too much, but you've got Julio Jones. You've got Ridley back. I think they've got a lot of offensive weapons. Big question marks maybe about their defense. But I think that the Eagles have way more questions on their offense than the Falcons have on their defense. So I'm going to take the home team here, Atlanta Falcons, -3.5 at home.
Yeah, I like this pick a lot. I mentioned there are only 2 or 3 clear-cut teams who are rebuilding. I think that's Houston, and I think that's Detroit. And then if you were to pick a third team, I think Philadelphia is sneakily in that conversation, especially if they don't get off to a strong start here. Jalen Hurts came in last year, was kind of up and down, found some success with rushing. I don't know how sustainable that's going to be for him as an NFL quarterback. I agree with you. I think Gardner Minshew could be starting games for this team by the time he gets the playbook.
By the third quarter.
Yeah, maybe. The Eagles, they trade Carson Wentz. They take a big cap hit to trade Carson Wentz. That cap hit matters. That affects how you can build the rest of your roster. They've invested first-round picks in their wide receiving core in each of the last 2 years. We still don't know what they really have in that group. So, there's just a lot of questions about this Eagles team. And then, the Falcons, you lose Julio Jones, but you, for all intents and purposes, replace him with Kyle Pitts, who...
Why did I say Julio Jones?
Yeah, could be the offensive rookie of the year. We'll see. I think this is a big year for Matt Ryan just in terms of seeing what he has left as an NFL quarterback. But right now, I like the Falcons' trajectory here heading into the season. I don't like the Eagles.
Kind of forgot about that whole phone call on a show where Julio Jones said he wanted out. That whole thing is kind of a blur to me over this offseason. That's right, he's gone. But so they have 8 former first-round picks on that offense, as I will correct that. All right, Ben, pick number 2 for you. This is a game that I actually liked as well. I switched it up just to be a little bit different. But NFL here, what is your play here for us?
Yeah, maybe an under-the-radar game here, and understandably so. But I like the Panthers -4.5 against the New York Jets. I mentioned just following teams' trajectories. I think the Panthers are a sneaky candidate to take a big leap this year. I think that going from Teddy Bridgewater to Sam Darnold, I think that unlocks a lot of this Panthers offense. I think you look back at last year, Christian McCaffrey missed a handful of games. Obviously, he has a big effect on what the Panthers are able to do on offense. The Panthers are one of these teams that have just kind of been steadily rebuilding here and loading up their roster with first-round picks, and in some cases, multiple first-round picks throughout the year. So, and then the Jets, like, I'm not sold on Zach Wilson. I'm not sold on just where they are. They spent a lot of money in free agency, but we already saw Carl Lawson, their big pass rusher from the Bengals. He's out for the year with an Achilles injury. I'm not sure how much Corey Davis moves the needle for the rest of this Jets offense. Like, I think the Jets are probably going to be picking in the top 5 again, and I think the Panthers, this is a potential year for them to take a leap. And then just in terms of narrative, you've got a Sam Darnold revenge narrative against a team that really didn't give him much of a chance after picking him, 4th overall in 2018. So I just like this Panthers team. I think they sneakily have one of the better receiving cores in the NFL with DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson, another former New York Jet. So I think that this line should be closer to 6, but I'm going to take the Panthers minus 4.5 here.
Yeah, and I think when this line came out, it was like at 3.5, so it's been bet up to 4.5. I think that they win this game by a touchdown, at least, the Panthers, for all the reasons you mentioned. Sam Darnold, I'm not sold on Wilson either. The Jets, I guess if we're ever going to take them, it's show us, don't tell us. They got to do it for like a season and a half for us to finally say these guys have a chance. So love this pick. I would have picked this game, tried to be a little different. So Ben is on the Panthers. I like it as well. All right, last pick for me, staying in the NFL, I'm going to take the Denver Broncos on the road. They are minus 2.5 against the New York Football Giants. No, I don't think that the Broncos will be that great of a team this year. No, I don't think that Teddy Bridgewater is the long-term answer for them at quarterback. And yes, I think Vic Fangio might get fired before the season is over. That being said, this is only week 1, and I still like some of the parts they have on that defense. They've gotten more healthy. They have some nice pieces on their offense as well. And again, it's only 2. They win the game by a field goal. You cover this matchup. I just don't think the Giants are very good. We got a chance to see them with a joint practice that the Browns had with them, a couple of them here in Cleveland, and then they played in that preseason game. And I know they didn't play everybody, but they just didn't look all that good. The Giants are still a little bit of a mess to me. Daniel Jones, I think the jury's still out there. So I'm going to take the Broncos. Again, don't think very highly of this team. This isn't like a season preview pick that these guys are going to the playoffs. But for the purposes of week 1, I'm going to take them even though they're on the road, giving 2.5.
Yeah, as is a Chalk Talk tradition, we have agreement here. This isn't one of my picks, but I do like it. We'll get some disagreement, I know, on the next one.
Okay.
But let's go with the Giants first. So Daniel Jones, is he good?
He still plays with the Giants, by the way. I know good? Julio Jones, I screwed that up. Daniel, is he good? The question's, we don't know.
And you have Daniel Jones behind a shaky offensive line. That's a recipe for disaster. The Giants are a team that they spent a lot of money, like the Jets, in the offseason, and didn't really seem to do so with a lot of aim. Like, they just threw a lot of money at Kenny Golladay. They threw some money at their defense. I'm just not sure like what their direction was in terms of doing that. Saquon Barkley coming back. Who knows how healthy he's going to be coming off an ACL injury. It seems like they're really easing him into things. Evan Ingram, their tight end, it looks like he's going to miss this game, which leaves you with Kyle Rudolph at tight end. I think like this is just not a Giants team that inspires a lot of confidence. And then the Broncos, I know I trashed Teddy Bridgewater on my last pick saying that Sam Darnold was an upgrade for him, but I think Teddy Bridgewater is like kind of a situational quarterback. And on a rebuilding Panthers team, he didn't make a lot of sense. Now on a Broncos team where they just need him to be a caretaker, play with Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, one of the better wide receiving cores in the NFL, and sneakily one of the better defenses in the NFL. Like, you just need Teddy Bridgewater to play within himself, which is what he's very much capable of doing. So I thought that it was academic when they went from Drew Lock to Teddy Bridgewater, a guy who's just going to take care of the ball.
It's a stopgap option. You know
absolutely.
What I mean?
And I think that this Broncos team is good enough around Teddy Bridgewater that they can afford to have a stopgap option. So, it's a little shaky, I think, here, just going with the road favorite. But, I do not like the Giants, so I definitely can understand picking against them when you only have to cover less than a field goal.
Pick a field goal, win the game. All right, got the Broncos there, minus 2.5. Ben, your final pick of your trio this week.
Yeah, and I think this might be the most highly anticipated game of week 1. I don't know if that's bias here, but I think this could very much be a AFC championship game preview. I'm taking the Cleveland Browns +6 at the Kansas City Chiefs.
What goes into this? Tell us here.
I think the Browns are good. Like, I think that, I remember we were talking about the 2019 Browns not too long ago when the Browns entered the season with all sorts of expectations and wound up 6-10.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were to take the Browns' worst case scenario, it would have looked a lot like that season. I'm trying to look at what the 2021 Browns worst case scenario would look like. Yeah. And I think it involves injuries, and you don't have to worry about that heading into week 1. Like, I think this offense is good. They return every starter from a season ago. I think they can actually afford injuries on the offensive side of the ball. You got to figure Baker Mayfield's only going to get better heading into season 2 with Kevin Stefanski. And then on defense, I worry about the defensive depth. But they add Jadeveon Clowney, they add John Johnson III, they add Anthony Walker Jr. I think this game is going to be a shootout, and I think that the Browns can keep pace with the Chiefs. And that's ultimately, like, I think that the Browns are going to come into this game pretty well prepared here. And yeah, I'd prefer to get 7, but I'll take the 6. The 6 doesn't scare me.
I think the Browns have had this one circled for quite some time. I know Browns fans have had this one circled since the schedule came out in May, right? But the only thing I disagree with you on this, and there's a couple things that go into this for me. I do think this season is going to look a little bit like a Kansas City Chiefs revenge tour. They feel like that Super Bowl, they could have won that Super Bowl, and they look terrible, they look flat, and they lose to Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. So I feel like this could be a season where they're just, out to just show everybody that we are the best team. The other thing is the time of this game, the fact that it is the opener. Mm-hmm. I'm feeling like Odell Beckham Jr. is going to play in this game, even though they have not committed to that up until the point of taping this show. So I think there's something to be said about getting him back into the mix. And I'm not one of those people that says, the Browns are a way better team without him, things like that. But I do think there's a chemistry thing there that you have to make sure everyone's on the same page with. But I feel like, Ben, if this game was a week 3 game, 1 o'clock at Arrowhead, yeah, I think I'm with you where the Browns can. But I think, as you said, all eyes are on this game. There's been so much of a build-up to this game. Patrick Mahomes, he had the turf toe injury. Looks like he's healthy now. And they've made some adjustments to their offensive line. I know there's some new pieces there. But I feel like just the time of the game and them feeling like this is our not revenge tour, but just a statement, season for them to get back to the Super Bowl for the 3rd straight year and this time win it. That's why I would lean. I also think this is the potential game where the Browns could be winning or even very close at the end, and the Chiefs score a late touchdown. Yeah. We know they've done that over the years. That would be my only thing.
The Chiefs are terrifying to pick against. I do it very rarely. When in doubt, I usually just pick Patrick Mahomes.
Yes.
To cover. But I think the Browns could win this game. Now, I don't think they're going to, but I think they could. And so if I think the Browns have a chance to win the game and I'm getting 6 points, like, that's just kind of my logic on this.
I thought they were going to be overvalued too, the Chiefs here. I thought there was going to be 7.5, or something like that, over a touchdown. It's only at 6. That's kind of scary for me.
Maybe tease this one.
Yeah, this will be fun. All right, so we didn't give out the teaser or the parlays yet, right? All right, hey, that's going to do it for this edition of Chalk Talk. This is already season 3 for us, episode 1 in the books as we get into week 2 of the college football season, week 1 of the NFL season. Remember, we will be keeping track of our records each week. You can check those out at WKYC.com. I think we'll have them here on the show. Oh, wow, there's the mugs. Yeah, wow, front and center there.
Keeping us accountable.
This will be tough. Yeah, we're not going to be those people that tell you we're hitting 78% against the number. You're going to know what we are hitting against the number. And again, we'll post the records. Probably the only time we'll be 500, right, Ben? Right now.
We'll see.
We'll see you on that. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great week and good luck.